One of my favorite quotes ever, and I'm a collector of quotes, is you're going to be the same person you are today, 5 years from now, except for the books you read and the people you meet. Books. I want to do this in like a couple different chapters. So first, preface. The books that have had the biggest impact on me have had a big impact on me because they have coincided with what's going on in my life. So I'll tell a little bit about each book that's been a big part of my life. It's been really kind of fun to go through these old books that I haven't really opened up or to remember certain things. So I'm going to kind of break this up into a couple different chapters. My book taste is kind of across the board. I'm not a huge fiction fan. I'm really more a big idea fan. So a lot more of my books that I like are idea books, how to build ideas. Biographies, I really like biographies because it's talking about people. And the world is made up of people's stories and they're awesome. So I really like biographies too. They're big because they're in my life. They've had some sort of impact on my life. The biggest fiction book that has had who I love is Sherlock Holmes. I love Sherlock Holmes. I love him as a writer, but also just I love the story of Sherlock Holmes. How he was able to look at a situation differently than everybody else. Everybody saw a lot of surface stuff, but he was asked the why behind it. And so I love reading his stories, just the mystery of what goes on in his life. So I love Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is probably, this is my favorite. Of all the books that are here that I have out right now, this is my only fiction book that's out here. And I love Sherlock Holmes. Of course, the Bible is absolutely pivotal in my walk. I use YouVersion, is a great app, Bible app. I use this all the time. I'm always doing your verse of the day, or I really like Romans. Romans is a great book. Imitation of Christ. I've been going through this recently. They're little bite size, just really good advice, very applicable today. The stuff that I'm going through, this is a great book. Love Does had a huge impact on my life just because it was a book about the stories that he tells are stories of, talks about, doing love does stuff, but it's also doing stuff that's fearless. He's so fearless in his approach. And it's really been applicable to what my wife and I are doing today at the group home, where we're just to do life fearlessly. So this is what I love about Love Does. Audible, I listen to Audible. Bob Goff reads this. It's amazing. C.S. Lewis, Weight of Glory, down there is absolutely incredible. It's a book of, I actually listen to it quite a bit. It's a lot of essays written by C.S. Lewis. One that's a great essay that he wrote called Why I'm Not a Pacifist. Even though he talks about World War II and a lot of things going on in World War II, just the way he lays out his logic. Trying to find it.
Without membership.
No. Membership.
The Inner Ring.
The Inner Ring is a great one. Yeah.
May I read you a few lines from Is Theology Poetry?
Is Theology Poetry? That is a wonderful one. The Inner Ring is a great one as well. Each one of these is of the Weight of Glory is phenomenal. This is probably one of the books that has shaped my thinking about the world a lot. The big reason about why 0 to 1 shaped it is because I have a pull to create ideas. So 0 to 1 talks about creating ideas that are not 1 to 1. So don't build another accounting firm, but how do you create things that don't exist? He was a founder of PayPal, so he was a part of something that didn't exist. It was a currency, electronic currency, or changing of money. How do you build that during a time when PayPal is just a part of our language now? One of my favorite parts of this as well. Every moment in business only happens once. There's not going to be another Facebook. There's not going to be another Instagram. Move on. Find something else to build. This is a question that I really, really like is what important truth do very few people agree with you on? And to answer that, I would probably say the nonprofit system we have in place needs to be reformed. That's my thesis. Maybe I'll do a video on that. So, wonderful book, wonderful listen, easy, not very thick. A lot of great info in this. During my time when I was learning about marketing and learning about trying to see what marketing really was and just kind of doing some research, The Experience Economy, great book talking about, or the generation we're living in is much more about experiences. This was written 2007. It was 10 years old, so I still think it still plays out today. There's probably some things that are a little bit different, a little bit older in some things, but we're really an experience economy where if you're selling a product, if you're selling an idea, it has to be really about the experience, less about the nuts and bolts of the product, and more about what are you going to experience by doing this. Is it going to save you time? Is it going to save you money? What can you do for that time that you're already saving? Like all those things. If you watch commercials about really good commercials, it's really about this. It's probably about the experience. What kind of experience are you going to use? Amazon does a great job with their commercials, especially with the Alexa's voice that's coming out. They do a wonderful job about saving you money, or that was micro moments. Oh, I need to clean this. Alexis, clean this. It's like in those moments, you're able to have those thoughts so you don't forget. But this is a great book. From a creativity standpoint, the books that I really, really highly recommend if you're looking to get into creativeness or you're a business owner and you're wondering what creativity is, I recommend these two books, Creative Confidence and Creative Inc. Creative Confidence is written by two brothers who founded the D School up in Stanford, which the D School stands for the Design School, and where they take a lot of different ideas and a lot of different people from different experiences, and they ask them to solve a problem. It's one of my favorite schools to follow is the D School. And so it talks about really how everybody is creative in their own way. Even accountants, even people who you specifically don't see them as creative or they're not labeled as creative, you guys are all creative. So I love that book because it just really speaks into being really encouraging to anybody who reads it. So Creative Confidence, highly recommend. Creative Inc. is the story of Pixar, who actually, as a kid, I wanted to work at Pixar, and it wasn't because of I wanted to draw or anything like that. It's because I saw the culture and what they were building. I said, I want to be a part of that. So Creative Inc. really dives into the culture of Pixar and how they run themselves as a business and through the creative process. So highly recommend both those books, Creative Confidence and Creative Inc. As I'm going through this, I see some other books that I don't know, this is like chapter 4, the other books. I highly recommend for where you are at in life. Like this book, Amazing Grace, the story of William Wilberforce. This was a huge thing for me because he spent, listening to a guy who spent his whole life trying to abolish slavery. Like that was his main ambition. So as my wife and I stepped into foster care world of full time of doing something, especially if it's a service oriented or this bigger mission oriented, it was really great to hear someone who came before and his journey and what he had to go through. It really put a lot of really good perspective. So I'd highly recommend that to anybody who is in service, who wants to serve, to see what it really looks like. One of the only books to make me cry, Scary Close by Donald Miller. The reason why this book made me cry is because in this book, Donald Miller, who also reads the book, talks about taking off that mask of your identity, He had his identity wrapped up in him being an author. He wrote Blue Like Jazz, which was another book that I really, really liked. And during my high school years, or just out of high school when it came out, it really shared a lot of stories about how to interact with non-Christians, which I wasn't really around very much. So he talks a lot about that in the book Blue Like Jazz. But he talks about him being an author and how he really put on that weight of, that's how I identify is, people ask, what's your name? And then what do you do? So for him, it was being, hey, I'm a New York Times bestseller. Okay, that really got the conversation going. And with the pain of that, of when you have your identity set in not God and who God wants you to be, but in your work. Got a lot in here. Bonhoeffer. I'm a Nike fan, so Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Conclusion. Books are great. Books allow you to step into somebody else's life just for a little while, get into somebody else's thoughts. I'd highly encourage you to read, but also understand. Don't get too caught up into books that are out there. They can lead you around different paths and make you feel different emotions. They're good. And so I'm a big book person. I like to listen to books, but they've had huge impacts on my life. So I'm glad I was able to share them with you, and books that I really like. All right, that's it.